Ah, Bear Grylls. Once the fearless face of wilderness survival, he somehow turned drinking his own pee into a personality trait and a surprisingly lucrative career. His mom must be proud. From devouring live bugs to wrestling nature itself, or so we thought, he sold us the dream of rugged self-reliance, only for us to later find out he was spending more time at luxury hotels than actual survival camps. Turns out the biggest challenge he's ever faced isn't nature, but his own credibility.
Between them, sever the nerve.
Sorry to interrupt, but Bear Grylls says I might have to drink my own pee if you don't subscribe. Please don't make me do that. Man vs. Wild or Man vs. Hotel Room Service. For years, Man vs. Wild sold us the image of Bear Grylls as the ultimate survivalist, battling the elements, braving extreme conditions, and eating things no sane human would. The problem? Turns out the real challenge was keeping a straight face while faking half of it. Reports surfaced that Grylls often stayed in luxury hotels while pretending to camp in the wild. At this point, calling it reality TV is a bigger stretch than his parachute stunts. Even Discovery Channel had to step in and admit that certain scenes were staged, issuing a statement in 2007 clarifying that Grylls received some survival assistance during filming. The bamboo raft that built itself. Remember that epic scene where Bear Grylls built a bamboo raft with nothing but his hands and sheer grit? Yeah, turns out the production team had already built most of it before he even got there. That's right. The only thing Bear had to survive in that moment was pretending to struggle for the cameras. If this is what counts as survival skills, then IKEA furniture assembly should qualify as extreme adventure training. At this rate, the next Man vs. Wild episode should feature him struggling to pitch a tent that was already set up by interns. Who knew the hardest part of survival was keeping a straight face while faking it? Solo adventures that weren't so solo. The show also often painted Grylls as a lone wolf fighting against the odds, but surprise! He was actually accompanied by an entire safety team just out of frame, complete with medics, camera operators, and probably a guy holding a chocolate cream frappuccino. In some episodes, he even had survival experts and consultants advising him off camera before filming key scenes, ensuring he never actually had to figure things out on his own. The idea that he was moments away from death? Give me a break. It's more like moments away from a protein bar and a supportive pep talk from his producer. But hey, it's still impressive. Pretending to be alone while a crew makes sure you don't stub your toe is a real talent. Bear Grylls versus the not-so-wild bear? Nothing screams wilderness danger like a guy in a bear costume sneaking around a film set. In Man vs. Wild, viewers were treated to a tense, heart-pounding moment where Bear Grylls bravely faced a wild grizzly near his camp. The only thing wild about that bear was the crew member sweating inside a fancy dress rental, because nothing says authentic survival like a prank that belongs at a 5-year-old's birthday party. While Discovery claimed the footage was never meant to air, the damage was done. Turns out the real predator in Man vs. Wild is staged television. Gone wild and broke. Even survival experts can't escape financial disasters. Bear Grylls Gone Wild Festival, hyped as the ultimate family adventure, has run into some serious money troubles. Despite expanding to 2 locations in 2024, the festival racked up a staggering $950,000 in debt, which equals a lot of dehydrated meal packs. Grylls and his partners pumped close to $1.3 million into the venture to keep it afloat. But at this point, the only real survival lesson is how not to run an event business. Mastering the wild might be his specialty, but when it comes to managing a festival, it looks like the real survival skills were needed behind the scenes. Bear Grylls' most questionable survival habits. Of all the questionable survival tips Bear Grylls has given us, none are more infamous than his obsession with drinking his own urine.
He drank while he was still relatively hydrated.
What started as a one-time extreme survival hack quickly became his personal brand. Every time he found himself in the wild without water, or let's be real, a scriptwriter ran out of ideas, he reached for the one beverage no one ever asked for. The problem? Experts say it's a terrible idea. Drinking urine actually speeds up dehydration, meaning bear's most famous survival tactic is more likely to make you die faster. The Russell Brand baptism backlash. Nothing screams authentic faith journey like being baptized in the Thames by a guy whose greatest life skill is drinking pee and eating bugs on camera. Grylls made waves when he baptized comedian Russell Brand in what looked less like a sacred moment and more like a deleted scene from a reality TV show. While some saw it as a heartfelt display of spirituality, others couldn't shake the feeling that this was less about God and more about Grylls adding baptisms to his extreme stunts list. At this rate, his next challenge will be converting Kanye West in the Amazon, blindfolded while base jumping. That time, he served Obama a Bear's leftovers. Ah yes, the moment when Bear Grylls looked at the leader of the free world and thought, you know what this man needs? A half-eaten salmon scavenged from the wilderness. During Running Wild with Bear Grylls from 2015, President Obama was honored with the opportunity to share leftovers from a bear's lunch. Because nothing says diplomatic respect like handing the most powerful man on earth a chewed-up fish and calling it a good source of protein.
I think we've earned it. We've burned some calories.
Obama, ever the gentleman, played along because when you've handled global crises, pretending to enjoy scavenged fish is just another day at the office. The wild's not the only thing that'll find you. Surviving avalanches? No problem. Dodging Nepalese bureaucracy? Not so much. In 2007, Bear Grylls decided that simply climbing Everest wasn't dramatic enough, so he paraglided over it. Because nothing says respect for nature like flying a motorized glider over sacred peaks without permission. Nepalese authorities were less than thrilled and hit him with a fine, proving that even in the most remote corners of the earth, you still need paperwork. Turns out the real survival challenge isn't the climb. It's navigating government regulations. Maybe next time, Bear should pack a lawyer along with his parachute. The luxury hotel hypocrisy. While audiences believe Bear Grylls was out there braving the elements, turns out he was also braving fluffy hotel pillows, spa treatments, and a well-stocked minibar. He was actually staying at a luxury resort nearby. Imagine struggling to light a fire with sticks, only to cut to Bear ordering room service and debating between a poolside massage or a fresh towel. Survival tip: always book a suite with a late checkout, because escaping the wild is easy, but escaping hotel fees? Now that's a challenge. More questionable advice. When it comes to survival, Bear Grylls has given us some truly questionable advice. Because why just survive when you can make things so much worse? First, he suggested eating raw meat straight from a fresh kill, which is a fantastic idea if your goal is to become friends with a tapeworm. Then there's his genius tip to run from a grizzly bear because nothing screams apex predator deterrent like panicked flailing. He's also advised squeezing water out of elephant dung and climbing waterfalls against the current, which is basically asking nature to eliminate you. At this point, his best survival tip might just be ignoring his survival tips. Discovery Channel fired him. After years of milking the "I'm the toughest guy in the wild" shtick, Discovery Channel finally decided they'd had enough of Bear's antics and unceremoniously booted him. The reason? A contractual dispute where Grylls reportedly refused to participate in 2 projects. Most likely because they didn't involve drinking bodily fluids or jumping off cliffs for no reason at all. When even a network that made millions off your over-the-top survivalist persona decides you're too much, you know something's wrong. Discovery executives didn't just fire him, they survived him. Maybe the real man versus wild was Bear versus his own contract. Political family scandal. Turns out, survival skills don't extend to dodging political scandals. Bear Grylls' father, Sir Michael Grylls, found himself at the center of controversy when politicians were accused of taking bribes to ask certain questions in Parliament. As a former Conservative MP, he was deeply entangled in the infamous 1996 Cash for Questions scandal. Sir Michael was later found to have misled a committee about payments he received from a lobbyist, even pocketing a 10% commission for directing business to the firm. Seems like navigating the political wilderness can be just as tricky as the real one. Adding to the family's contentious history, he supported South African apartheid and campaigned to prevent the BBC from reporting on pharmaceutical side effects, industries he conveniently represented. It seems the Grylls legacy isn't just about braving the wild, but also navigating the murky waters of political controversy. Bear Grylls survival gear. Who needs actual survival skills when you can just buy overpriced gear with Bear Grylls' name slapped on it? From flimsy fire starters to knives that wouldn't survive a butter test, his branded products have been called everything from unreliable to gimmicky. But hey, nothing says rugged outdoorsman like a mass-produced survival kit that falls apart when you actually need it. Turns out, the real survival trick isn't braving the elements. It's convincing people to spend $50 on a whistle. If nature doesn't kill you, the regret from buying Bear's gear just might. Ray Mears calls out the showman. Outdoor survival expert Ray Mears has one word for Bear Grylls: showman. Unlike Bear, who leaps off cliffs for dramatic effect, Mears actually teaches practical survival skills designed to keep people alive, not just entertained. He has repeatedly criticized Grylls for prioritizing theatrics over real-world techniques, arguing that much of what Bear does on TV is more about getting views than genuine survival education. While Grylls is busy drinking questionable fluids and staging death-defying stunts, Mears is out there teaching people how to actually survive without turning it into a reality show audition. And considering how often Grylls' survival advice gets debunked, Mears might just have a point. What do you think? The Island with Bear Grylls. In 2014, The Island with Bear Grylls marooned 12 men on a deserted island to test their survival skills. The glaring absence of women sparked criticism, with female survival experts labeling the show as inherently sexist. Channel 4 defended the format, claiming it was an examination of modern masculinity. However, critics argued that excluding women perpetuated outdated stereotypes. In response to the backlash, subsequent seasons featured both men and women. But the initial oversight left many questioning the show's commitment to genuine survival challenges versus sensationalist programming. Stunt team involvement. So, as it turns out, a lot of Bear Grylls' wild, death-defying stunts aren't entirely his own doing. Reports have surfaced that he works with a professional stunt team to orchestrate and enhance many of his survival sequences, meaning that much of the danger is carefully staged rather than improvised. Scenes where he dangles from cliffs, leaps across canyons, or wrestles with nature? Yeah, all choreographed and rehearsed. Even moments that seem spontaneous, like crossing treacherous rivers or scaling rock faces, are often pre-planned with rigging, safety harnesses, and expert guidance just out of frame. This raises some serious questions, like how many of his near-death experiences were just well-edited camera angles? Celebrity Bear Hunt 2025. Because dropping celebrities into the jungle is totally normal TV now, Bear Grylls' new Netflix series, Celebrity Bear Hunt, takes survival to an unhinged level. With stars like Mel B and Boris Becker running through the Costa Rican wilderness, Bear plays the ultimate predator. Because apparently, just teaching survival isn't exciting enough anymore. Hosted by Holly Willoughby, the show features celebs dodging crocodiles, tackling extreme challenges, and questioning their life choices. Viewers are split between loving the chaos and wondering if we've officially hit peak reality TV absurdity. Have you seen Celebrity Bear Hunt? Let me know down below. The Mary Was Palestinian controversy. In December 2024, Bear Grylls ignited controversy with a Christmas message referring to Mary, the mother of Jesus, as a young, poor, and no doubt terrified Palestinian girl. Critics swiftly pointed out that during Mary's time, the region was known as Judea, and the term Palestine was introduced by the Romans approximately a century later. The campaign against anti-Semitism argued that Grylls' wording imposed modern terminology on ancient history, effectively erasing Mary's Jewish identity. In response to the backlash, Grylls revised his message, removing the term Palestinian and clarifying that his intention was to set the scene based on common biblical maps, not to comment on nationality or ethnicity. The flip-flop on veganism. Once upon a time, Bear Grylls flirted with plant-based living, promoting a diet free of dairy, wheat, and sugar while encouraging fans to eat more greens. Fast forward to 2023, and he's suddenly embarrassed by his past stance, ditching plant-based meals for raw liver and an all-meat diet. Apparently, the real survival challenge wasn't the wilderness. It was sticking to a consistent meal plan. Fans who tried to follow his former advice were understandably confused. Was this just a temporary detour in his carnivorous destiny? In 2015, he even co-wrote Fuel for Life, a book advocating clean eating, though it was never strictly vegan. If his dietary beliefs change as often as his filming locations, maybe we should all take his advice with a pinch of non-vegan salt. Bear Grylls' private island. Nothing screams rugged survivalist like owning a private island, right? Apparently, once you've conquered nature, the next logical step is securing prime real estate to escape it. Tucked away off the Welsh coast, Bear Grylls Island might sound like an opulent retreat for the ultra-rich. But before you picture a Bond villain lair, let's bring this back to reality. The island is about 600 meters long, 200 meters wide, and according to Bear, nowhere near as glamorous as people assume. No luxury mansions, no butlers. Just a humble little home where the family only lives part of the year. Because obviously, even survivalists need an off-season. He bought the island in 2001 for a bargain price of about $115,000 today, which, to be fair, wouldn't even buy you a one-bedroom flat in New York. So, while it's technically a private island, it's less billionaire paradise and more weekend camping trip with a mortgage. Grylls insists that the interior is simple and lacks fancy things. Because, of course, why would he want comforts after spending his life teaching us how to sleep in a deer carcass? But let's be real. If things ever got too survivalist on the island, something tells me a quick call to the mainland isn't out of the question. And that's everything wrong with Bear Grylls. From faking survival stunts to bizarre personal branding choices, luxury hotel stays, and his bizarre fascination with drinking things no human should ever consume. Whether you see him as an adventurer, a survivalist, or just an incredibly lucky reality TV star, one thing's for sure. Bear Grylls' greatest talent isn't surviving the wild, it's surviving himself. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel and leave a comment. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.